Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoy this story. It's called The Goat from the Hills and the Mountains. Your job is to listen to me read the whole story and then go and do the work that I have left on the slide deck for you. Long, long ago, in the time of old Mary Chestnut, there lived a woman who had a daughter, a husband, a cottage, and a garden. She tended her daughter with love, her husband with care, her cottage with joy, and her garden with all her heart. And so the garden rendered plump pumpkins, sweet carrots, tender lettuces, and delicious peas. And each day, in the neatly kept cottage, the woman, her daughter, and her husband enjoyed wonderful meals. One morning, the woman sent her daughter to the garden to fetch some vegetables for their dinner. When the daughter arrived, she saw in the middle of the garden a large goat eating everything in sight. Shouting and flapping her arms, the girl tried to scare the goat away. But the goat merely looked at her with disdain and said in a threatening voice, "I'm the goat from the hills and mountains, and I love to eat young girls for dessert." The girl was very frightened at the idea of being a goat's dessert and rushed back to the house to tell her mother what had happened. "Well, I'll take care of that," her mother said. She grabbed a broom and hurried to her beloved garden, swinging the broom in the air. But the goat looked at her with disdain and said in a threatening voice, "I'm the goat from the hills and mountains, and I love to eat young girls and their mothers for dessert." Seeing that she was getting nowhere, the woman rushed back to the cottage to tell her husband what was going on. "Well, I'll take care of that," he said. Taking a long and hefty stick from the woodpile, the man ran to the garden, shouting and shaking the stick at the goat. But the goat merely looked at him with disdain and said loudly, "I'm the goat from the hills and mountains, and I love to eat young girls, their mothers, and you know who, their fathers for dessert." At that moment, a soldier walked by. Seeing what was going on, he offered to help. He pulled out his sword and waved it back and forth. In a commanding voice, he ordered the goat to leave or to lose his life. But the goat looked at him with disdain and said, "I'm the goat from the hills and mountains, and I love to eat young girls, their mothers, their fathers, and you know who, soldiers with swords for dessert." By now, the girl was crying, the woman glowering, her husband fuming, and the soldier was stomping about in frustration. Just then, a little ant appeared on the road. The ant stopped and said, "I'll be happy to get that nasty goat out of your nice vegetable garden." The girl looked at the ant in wonder. The woman looked at the ant with hope, the husband with surprise, and the soldier with anger. "How dare you claim you can succeed when we cannot?" the soldier shouted. The ant replied, "Well, I was going to do it out of kindness, but since you've spoken to me so rudely, now I'll have to be paid." "What do you want as payment?" asked the woman. "Some wheat would do," answered the ant. "I'll give you 2 sacks full," said the woman. "Oh, I can't handle that much," said the ant. "It won't fit in my basket." "1 sack, then," said the woman. "Oh, I can't handle that much," said the ant. "It still won't fit in my basket." "1/2 sack?" asked the woman. "Still too much," said the ant. "2 grains would do. One for me and one for my grandmother." Once that was settled, the ant crawled to the goat, who had been so busy devouring the vegetable garden that he had not paid any attention to the conversation. The ant climbed up one leg of the unsuspecting goat and bit him hard, so hard that the goat leaped up and down and finally left the vegetable garden to return to the hills and mountains. As he climbed up the first hill, he could still be heard saying and shouting, You all would have tasted terrible anyway." While the man and the woman thanked the ant very warmly, the soldier scurried away without a word, his eyes fixed on the road. As promised, the woman gave the ant 2 grains of wheat. But since it was such an awfully heavy load for her basket, the ant carried 1 grain up to the ant hill, while the girl helped her by carrying the other. And little torn shoe, now it's my turn to hear from you. The end.